New developments today in the case against two men charged in connection to the murder of a Richmond police officer. The sentence prosecutors say they'll be seeking.
A man police say killed a 7-year-old girl in Allen County made his first court appearance this afternoon. An update in that case.
They're called special deputies and they help sheriffs around the state. But tonight, a WKYT investigation looks into whether these volunteers are being properly trained.
This is WKYT News at 6.
Good evening to you. They are charged in connection to the shooting death of a Richmond police officer earlier this month. Today, prosecutors announced they will seek the death penalty against two suspects in the case.
Police charge Raleigh Sizemore with murder and Gregory Ratliff with complicity. They say that Sizemore shot Officer Daniel Ellis at a Richmond home on November 4th. Our Victor Puente has the latest in the case in our top story at 6.
Raleigh Sizemore was brought into court wearing body armor and surrounded by corrections officers. In the front row, Officer Daniel Ellis's wife, Katie, sat surrounded by family. Sizemore's attorney entered a not guilty plea on all of his charges, which included murder, robbery, and unlawful imprisonment. They filed a motion to preserve evidence in the case. The prosecution then filed a motion that changed the tone of this case.
Commonwealth files its motion of intention to seek the death penalty.
Okay, well that's been filed. That makes things a whole lot different.
Police say Sizemore shot Ellis after Gregory Ratliff led him into an ambush. Ratliff is charged with complicity to murder, and prosecutors say they intend to seek the death penalty against him as well. The two other people charged in connection to this case were also arraigned on charges of robbery. The attorneys for Rita Creech and Carl Banks argued that their clients' bonds should be reduced. Creech's is $10,000, Banks is $100,000. In both cases, the judge refused.
I would also like to point out that, Mr. Sizemore is charged with unlawful imprisonment of Ms. Creech. I think that speaks volumes as to what her limited involvement in this case was.
Judge William Klaus told the attorneys he intended to move as quickly as possible, but also understood this case could take some time. The next status hearing is scheduled for the end of February. In Madison County, Victor Puente, WKYT.
Raleigh Sizemore is also charged with being a convicted felon in possession of a handgun. He was out on parole when he was arrested.
Late this afternoon, a man charged with murdering a 7-year-old Allen County girl made his first court appearance. It comes as we're learning new details about how Kentucky State Police say Timothy Madden killed Gabby Doolin. First, a warning, though, parts of this story are disturbing. Jennifer Palumbo is at the live desk for us with an update. Jennifer?
Amber, about an hour ago, 38-year-old Timothy Madden made his first appearance in Allen County District Court to answer to charges of murder, kidnapping, rape, and sodomy. It was an emotional scene in the courtroom as Gabby's parents, Brian and Amy Doolin, saw their daughter's accused killer during his arraignment. According to his arrest citation, when KSP went to Madden's home after finding the second-grade student dead, Madden agreed to a DNA test and gave them the clothing he'd been wearing at the time. The citation says Madden's DNA matched the DNA found on Gabby's body. In court today, Gabby Doolin's mother, Amy, sobbed, and Judge Martha Harrison became choked up as she read how state police say Madden raped, then killed Gabby.
The above-named defendant unlawfully did commit the offense of kidnapping by unlawfully restraining Gabriella Doolin, a child under the age of 12, with intent to accomplish or advance the commission of a felony, and to inflict bodily injury or to terrorize Gabriella Doolin, a child under the age of 12, which resulted in death.
Police found Gabby dead in a creek behind Allen County Scottsville High School on Saturday, November 14th. She'd been there with her family watching her brothers play football. Timothy Madden told police he was at the game but had nothing to do with her murder. Now, this arrest citation also says Gabby Doolin died from manual strangulation and drowning. The judge set Madden's bond at $1 million full cash. At the live desk, Jennifer Palumbo, WKYT.
Jennifer, thank you. The judge entered a not guilty plea for Madden and said he is eligible for the death penalty.
People who knew him say he was a hard worker and a good person. So what led to an 18-year-old being shot and killed on a Lexington street? Lexington police are still trying to figure that out tonight, a day after finding Jamal Gossett dead. Hillary Thornton talked to one of his former teachers and someone who lives near the shooting scene.
An amazing young man. He had an infectious smile. He worked hard for all of his teachers, including me, and he was just a pleasure to be around.
That is how 18-year-old Jamal Gossett's former teachers at Bryan Station High School are remembering the teenager who was found fatally shot inside of an SUV on Kent Drive.
All of us in the building, we just are in shock. You know, he was never in trouble. He was just a good kid, and it's just so hard to believe.
Those living out here along where Lexington's most recent homicide played out say chaos filled their street last night. Say today it is a very somber place as they're learning about the young man who was shot and killed just outside of their front door.
There was another vehicle sitting across the street, and a young man jumped in it and took off. And one of my neighbors was standing by the door of this SUV, saying that there's a young man inside dead.
Michelle Lamb lives right next to where Gossett was found. Today she placed flowers near where that SUV sat.
This child needs to be remembered. It needs to be solved, and it hurts me just because he was left alone. He was only 18. He just graduated. He hasn't even got to live yet. His mom, my heart goes out for her. I'm a mother, and it would break my heart. I don't think I'd be able to go on if I had to bury one of my children.
In Lexington, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
Very difficult. Gossett worked at a restaurant, and while in school, he was a member of the education enrichment program called Black Males Working. Lexington police have not said anything about possible suspects in the murder. After a couple of threats in recent days, Knox County schools have decided to close tomorrow. Today, Barberville police say someone made a bomb threat against Knox Central High School. The school was evacuated, and all Knox County schools dismissed early. Investigators did not find anything, and they say the threat came from a student. This comes after school leaders say another student threatened to bring a gun to Knox Central last Friday.
They patrol streets around the state as special deputies, but often they're not trained. Your county sheriff swears in special deputies who volunteer their time, but how they're used by sheriffs around Kentucky led to a WKYT investigation. Miranda Combs has the story.
And I got hit over the head several times.
It was 2007, 6 staples and multiple other injuries in Whitley County.
Hit here, hit there. I got blood vessels busted right there in my face.
Christopher Brewer said Tony Ramey showed up at his home wanting a gun back. Tony Ramey, at the time, was a special deputy for the Whitley County Sheriff's Department.
I was just wishing somebody would see it, the neighbors, and call the cops, and the cops would get there so it would be over. But he kept saying he was the police, and that was very scary.
Well, most people don't even realize there's such a thing as a special deputy or a volunteer deputy or any distinction between the two.
Hal Friedman sued Whitley County, the Sheriff's Department, the sheriff, and Ramey. In 2010, a federal jury said Brewer should get more than $6 million for his injuries.
When you give someone a badge and don't supervise or control them, there can be very bad consequences, and that's precisely what I think the verdict indicated.
This is where most law enforcement officers are trained in Kentucky, the Department of Criminal Justice Training in Richmond. Records of all certified officers are kept here and complaints against them. But what you won't find here is a list of special deputies. Special deputies are appointed by the sheriff and sworn in. But the difference is state statute says they can't be paid, and it doesn't require them to get any training before they serve.
A search of Kentucky special deputies will take you to Harlan County. A special deputy there was charged with murder in 2007 and later found not guilty. In Pike County, a special deputy was charged with DUI and later pleaded guilty to reckless driving.
I would say that the majority of the public, if they're confronted with an individual who has a badge and indicates that they're a deputy of some kind, is going to assume that person has lawful authority to do what they're doing. But that may not always be the case.
It can be hard to figure out which deputies are special deputies and don't require training, and which are certified by the state, especially in Breathitt County, where the department has 6 special deputies. Recently, the Sheriff's Department made a front-page drug bust with federal marshals. Also, in the same time frame, this arrest citation shows a special deputy made a meth arrest. He writes in his report that he was running surveillance on drug complaints. Being a special deputy, he is not required to have training. We watched deputies come in and out of the Breathitt County Sheriff's Office for nearly an entire day, wearing sheriff's uniforms, carrying guns, even driving four-wheel drive SUVs. And if you're curious who they belong to, just look on the driver's side door. Inside this patrol car, the Kentucky Uniform Citation Book.
Hey, Sheriff, how are you?
Hey, Miranda Combs. How are you doing? Sheriff Clemens?
This is Breathitt County Sheriff Ray Clemens. He told us he has 1 certified deputy and 6 special deputies.
And they do anything that any other deputy would do?
Anything that,
Clemens told us his special deputies are trained, but that he'd have to look at the bylaws to tell us more. We didn't make an appointment for our interview.
Are they paid?
No.
But they drive your vehicles?
They volunteer.
Do they carry your weapons?
Yeah.
So they do all that?
Yeah.
Do they take their vehicles home?
Yeah.
That's just part of the deal?
Yeah. They volunteer, they don't get no pay, see. We just got 1 paid deputy, all we got.
Do you understand people's concerns that, sometimes if they are volunteers, that they may not be as up to date on training as, say, your certified deputy would be? Do you see that would be an issue?
The ones we've had have been here for 8 or 9 years, Been through training years ago, And so they do anything that we can do, you know what I'm saying?
So we wanted to see if the Department of Criminal Justice Training had any record of them. Turns out there's not a single record of training for 4 of the 7 special deputies. As for the other 3, one last had training in 1995, another in 1989. The most current was in 2011, an online class that took 5 hours. In Anderson County, special deputies don't do everything certified deputies do. In fact, they are specialized.
I have 2.
One is a pilot, the other a chaplain.
They are sworn. It is filed in the clerk's office as required by statute.
Both used, Sheriff Troy Young says, in special circumstances only. They aren't given sheriff's cars or weapons, and they don't wear a uniform matching the sheriff.
It's up to each individual sheriff to follow the statute as far as how he's going to utilize them, if he does.
And the state statute is vague in regard to what a special deputy can do. It does say the deputies are to be used for emergency situations, but an emergency is defined as anything the sheriff believes needs immediate response. Breathitt County Sheriff told me his department couldn't survive without his special deputies, just for the simple fact that he can't afford to pay any more certified deputies than the one he has.
Seems like there's a lot of gray area, and it seems like it would fall back on the county. But what if something were to happen to one of these special deputies?
I reached out to the judge executive multiple times, and he did not get back to me. They are apparently covered by a little bit of insurance, some workers' comp insurance. But as that Whitley County case showed you, the county can be sued. So.
You can see where there'd be some confusion in the public as to whether or not they're a certified deputy or a special deputy.
We saw those guys. They
both
were
have uniforms,
exactly
they have badges,
yeah.
they have guns, they have cars.
Interesting.
All right, Miranda, thank you.
Yeah.